Hello and welcome to this second look exploring session looking at John the Evangelist. Rather odd little interlude from the early part of the 16th century. It's not really clear how complete this text is. It doesn't quite join all the dots together. There's a sense of there's a party happening off stage and none of us are invited to it. We certainly get a lot of John the Evangelist speaking here's some stuff, and then other characters wander on and wander off again, and at some points they sort of interact vaguely with what John is saying, but there is a sense that there's something missing here, but I'm still fascinated by it. We've looked at this variously as first looks on the podcast as well as on the YouTube channel. So there will be links to those other versions that we've looked at in the past. I just want to let it run through again and find what we find from it. So reading today, John the Evangelist is
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Irisdision and Idleness is
Lois in London.
Reading Actio is
Kyle in Tucson.
Reading Evil Counsel is
Lynn in the Northwest United States.
And reading Eugenio is muted at present.
Aliki in Athens.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton, and I will be reading nothing. I will just be here making notes as we go along and trying to keep everything moving forward, but in a relatively silent and non-invasive way. We won't be reading stage directions. Broadly speaking, expect that John remains somewhere on stage. He might occasionally exit. He might not, really. And that other people occasionally exit and then enter and then exit, depending on where we are in the play. So without further ado, let's hear from St. John the Evangelist.
Domine ante te omne desiderum meum, et te gemitus meus non est abscontus. The sweetest life, sovereign, in this world with some, is to have meditation of our Lord Jesus. Very contemplative God worshipped thus, bethinking in the soul without any speech. God tendeth right more the prayer within the heart of us than the prayer of the mouth. The text doth teach in meditation, whoso hath for fence, the mouth cannot express the thoughts of the heart. That holiest fruition is of so high intelligence as it ravishes the soul into a blessed desert. It feeleth no earthly thing unto the time it revert. Thus fared Magdalene when Martha complained. She heard her not. In God her heart was so expert, nor the angel at the sepulchre, love so her constrained. The cause why I rehearse you, the holy meditation, for it is mine exercise express. Whoso will labour in this must see his habitation, be solitary in soul, of great quietness. Therefore ever to the church I do me dress. Rest, reverence, and worship therein should be, with crying on Christ and our sins confessed. Beata qui habitat in domina tua Domine.
Qui cum Deo Patri, granted by the Pope, 1,400, never a day less, that hath heard this noble sermon, and thereon doth hope, a pena et culpa, here I them release. Is not pity such a pulpit man to lose? I pray you, sir, let us hear more of your Pope Holiness, for methink I have heard you preach on this at St. Paul's Cross.
Whom call you Pope Holy?
Such a fool as thou art that clappest ever in divinity.
All virtuous people to commend is my property.
Then is Caton false, and he that indicts, for he saith, nec te collaudas, nec te culpaberis ipse. Great laudations loveth these hypocrites, qui se collaudat, etc. No more to you at this time, but understand you this Latin?
Yea, sir, I trow.
Responde tunc, Domine Doctor Clericorum. But, sir, know you any justice of quorum?
Why so?
fellow of mine was taken with a cucolorum for a couple horses he stole in an evening.
What would you have me do in that case?
Sursum corda for him to sing? You should have known well why.
I cannot sing.
No, sir, you should but make a spring under a perch, looking up towards the sky.
Without God be thy friend, that same death thou shalt die.
Marry, I beshrew his heart that can so prophesy.
What is thy name?
Ah, read.
Eugenio, I trow, the same.
Ah, sir, the devil strike off thy head. Whoreson, who taught thee so right to read? I trow some evil spirit be within thee.
In the city of Jerusalem, that is so called. I fear thou wilt never come to that holy Sion that with 12 precious stones is surely walled. Full strait is the way thither to go, and into that castle entering is none, without thou acquaint thee with 2 porters before. Hope is the first, and faith the other one.
Lo, so ghostly he prateth evermore. You dare not cough, your conscience is so holy. But I pray you, show me before which is the way to yonder castle you praise so greatly.
Over the mead of meekness mark thou the way, then to the path of patience shalt thou pass, into the land of largeness. Look for the lay, and in the lane of busyness look thou not bash. Then measure in a marsh a full manor has. Rest there hardily, and abide all night.
Nay, that I will not by this light. But what callest thou this way?
Via recta, leading to life. So David named it in his day. Spes mea statit in via recta.
Passeth all men by this journey.
Nay, and the more pity, verily, I say.
What be they that go that way most?
They that be inspired with the Holy Ghost, as innocents and virgins.
Marry, I know none such in all this coast.
They that go thither must be gratia electi.
Why? Was there no other way but this?
Oh, yes. On the left side, another there is. That is called via obliqua et via circularis.
And whither draweth this?
Even right to death. Whoso walks that way, himself he slayeth.
Sir, who goeth that way so ill?
All they that worketh the devil's will, as omnes iniquo in circitu impii ambulantes.
Thou art a lowler by my troth, I warrant. How many bypaths be in that way?
60 and odd, I say.
Then one cannot fail where he go by night or day. But may a man go to the stews that way at his pleasure, if he list to play?
It brings men to the seat of rueful array. The Lady of Confusion lieth therein, that Babylon is called. She is the end of all sin.
Which way coasteth that country?
To an isle in the north, I say. Ab Aquilone pandetur omne malum.
That is the first place that men should assay, whether it be hedged or walled.
With boughs and trees it is marvellously paled. There groweth the elders of envy, staked with pride full high, and the briars of backbiting with wrath wreathed about, full of slouthy bushes and lecherous thorns dry, with gluttonous posts and covet eyes railed throughout, and at mischief's gate many doth in run.
And where do they all become?
Down to the dungeon, where the devil dwelleth, Lucifer, that loathly lord that is in bale blisses. There is woe upon woe, as Christ doth telleth, all that may disease and nothing please, ever restless. There is frost, there is fire, hope is lost and her desire. Their care hath no recover. Without pity there is pain. To cry for mercy it is in vain, for grace is gone forever. Fumus tormentorum suorum ascendit in saecula saeculorum. Lo, thus hath lost wedded confusion, Lucifer's daughter, damnation, in hell to have heritage. Septum dominium peccati est mors.
Faith, that's a knavish way to walk. Now, a while of some mirth let us talk, for I forsake that passage.
Now, farewell, sir, and have good day, for I must go another way. Forget not my reasons sage.
What, will you go your way? You have done a fair journey today.
It is time for to be walking, for I am weary of your talking.
Lo, sirs, he spake full holily, but yet I beshrew him for all his clergy. He may well be called witless Sir Will, for I trow his brain is steadfast as a windmill. But now, well remembered by books Amromes, I would have a plaster for all harms, some fair wench to lie in my arms, that would avoid all strifes. If 'twere to me administrate nos, et restaurate nos, also comfortate nos. Yea, and sometime I'll take men's wives, for cuckold makers have merrier lives than they that do all the cost as to wed at the church door and there to be sworn. Perhaps her husband should have a horn, that may he curse the time that ever he was born. For all the love is lost. Clerks say that of wedlock God that knot doth knit, and yet women do venture to break it. For though their souls should lie in hell pit, they will use that sorry work, and if they so die, Atropos cometh full suddenly, and, or they beware, full slyly he leadeth them all down in the dark. The courtesy of England is oft to kiss, and of itself it is lechery where pleasure is. All young folk remember this, intentio judicat quenquam. So great delight thou mayst have therein, that afore God it is deadly sin. But farewell, yonder cometh Sir William of Trentham.
That Lord which is principal, conserve and keep this congregation, and cover you with his mantle perpetual. After that ye do pass with death's visitation, this prince bring you to that holy nation, where love doth dwell with virginity, and to give you plain information, in that realm dwelleth the Holy Trinity. I am that John that presently doth appear, called the grace of God by interpretation, and of my doctrine, if ye list to hear, much can I show you of Christ's incarnation, and of his passion. For verily I was there. I saw him hang on the cross, on high, his mother and I stood there under, and I heard when he cried, Eli, Eli, and saw lovely smite his heart asunder. His laws to the people will I preach, and all that ever do follow me in peace, the kingdom of heaven their souls shall reach, there having joy that never shall cease. But now the true love that we should to God owe, men give it to riches that is mutable. Full sore they will repent, I trow, that ever they were of mind so unstable. If any man will have a riches ghostly, I will hastily be here, and thereof he shall have gladly. At all times I will him cheer. My coming hither was for your furtherance, and now I leave you in God's governance.
Now merry might you be. Who was that called me so early today? One resided me with a bowl of water. Here was a shrewd matter. Suddenly one to a fray. It was some knave, my brother. Beshrew him and none other for that array. I was fast asleep till I felt the wet. Full still I lay. He brake mine old custom, for I would have lain till noon and then have risen to play. But now to the purpose, for by the faith that now goes, I love to go gay, and with other men's wives, that be wanton of lives, oft do I run away. And wheresoever I go, one good condition have I so, I use never truth to say. Else also I have a great disease, if ye will me leave, even here, sirs, in the bottom of my sleeve.
By God, sir, and I do lay a plaster to your coat, I will hear it, I dare lay a groat.
Eugenio, from whence come you?
From thence that you were spoke of right now, ye shall have an office.
What is that? I pray you tell me.
By my faith, ye shall be hangman of Calais. Thereto ye be appointed, verily.
Then the first man that shall be hanged shalt thou be. For I tell thee, I will begin with thee.
Nay, sir, but hark what I shall thee say. Here was one late this same day that dispraised riches worldly. He said that he that doth forsake prosperity and take him to wilful poverty, he shall have joy eternally.
What was he?
A doctor, as seemed me, he spake as holily as though God had been his cousin.
Yea, but was he not mired with hypocrisy?
No, man, he spake so ghostly, he had almost changed my mood. I had thought to give away my good, and then ask myself for charity.
Why, wouldst thou have been so witty? Nay, thou art a fool, and thou wilt buy for any egging. Give away thine own good, and go thyself a begging. For so will not I do yet, trust me.
Sir, he promised most largely that I should enjoy, live ever, where I shall die never. Thus also he said, verily, that I should feel there no ill, and have all that I desire will, and see God in his majesty. Also, he promised me a greater hire, that I should have all that I would desire.
I read thee lay that thought away, for mightst thou not see all day, that they that useth sport and play liveth at easy merrily. They have most heartiest rest, and fareth of the best, that thus spendeth their lives in jollity.
Well then, my wit I will renew, for I trow thou sayest full true. If I do it, and afterward rue it, as to give away my good, I trow I should it forethink, without a cup then might I drink. For that purse that sewneth not trink, his master weareth a threadbare hood.
Yea, yea, man, that is true indeed. But let us go walk apace, for evil counsel hither will speed. That person, I trow, he be void of all grace.
Go we hence then in time. Hastily we will come again, for John will be here by prime. His sermon would I hear fain.
By your leave, let me come near. What doth all this company here? Whereafter is your gaping? By Our Lady and Master, I have sought nigh and far, for since I have come to Rochester, I have spent all my winning. By Our Lady, I will no more go to Coventry, for there are knaves set me on the pillory and threw eggs at my head, so sore that my nose did bleed. Of white wine, gallons 30. Sometime in London did I dwell. I was prentice with evil counsel, and so men calleth me. I hope again to go thither, if summer were come and fair weather, and live full merrily. I have sought England through and through, village, town, city, and borough. With many a thousand bequainted am I. As ill-tongued churl and many a proud gentleman, that shrewdly roundeth many epistle, and when they in young wives' ears doth whistle of matters pertaining to Venus' acts, with flattering words and pretty knacks, both men and women they bring to lechery, through me, evil counsel, to live ad vouchery. In Cornwall I have been, and in Kent, Westminster, St. Catherine's, and in Unthrift's Rent. There I rested very lately. Now fain would I have a master that would do my counsel, for though he spend and be a waster, To get money, I can teach him the craft well.
What art thou, tell me, that speaketh thus?
Marry, sir, a man that would have a service. Great need I have thereto.
Why, what service canst thou do?
Both steal and lie, and on your errand go to fetch another man's wife to your bed.
If I of such things may be sped, I'm glad that we be met.
In England shall nothing me let. With you will I bide forever. But, master, have ye any wife?
Oh, yea, more than 25 by my life. But some other men keepeth them for me.
Marry, sir, no force. It costeth you less the less money. But you have a good cheer when you come?
Oh, yea, I am at meat, I am merry, and at bed if I list to play.
Then their husbands be out of the way, or else ye come not there.
Yes, daily, and make good cheer, and not spite at all. I have such policy.
I am glad ye be so witty. And, sir, if you have a fresh lusty trull, I will get her you, or a hussif that can spin a pound of wool.
Then will we drink wine at the full, in one place, if thou canst help me.
I pray you tell me, what is she?
An artificer's wife, a pretty woman.
Sir, I will go to my brother Temptation, and then to wanton youth I will make station. And between us three, of her your pleasure ye shall have hardly.
Shall I go with you also?
Yea, sir, and it please you so to do, how say you? Have not they merry lives that may kiss and buss other men's wives? Lo, youth is full of jollity, and when saw you your brother sensuality?
Sir, I left him on the plain of Salisbury. He told me that he would lift some good fellow from his thrift, and as I trow somewhat he will get to make with the penny. Many one for their good do labor and sweat, but he doth not so, he getteth it lightly.
Sir, he did me a shrewd turn, as I you tell.
Oh, I pray thee show me how it befell.
The last day, sir, I wist the puttock that he wear on his fist would have trod my hen, and up I caught a rottock, and hit him up the buttock, that there he lay in a then.
Whereby knowest thou that it was he?
For he had a bell about his cue, and thereby each him knew. I bid him hold the wind, till at the last he had his mind. God give him an ill pew.
And what meat didst thou give him? Say on, hardly.
Sir, a fair piece of bacon and a black bowl full of barley.
By Jesu, this is a gentle meat for a hawk. To keep birds thou art very cunning. Thy thrift, I trow, is laid a sunning. But tell me now, where is thy wanning?
Sir, at the stews is my most abiding. Otherwise, going and sometimes riding. And if the ground be slipper and sliding, in faith I fall down no sling.
What, some pleasure then there appears? Beshrew your head between your ears.
Nay, sir, it shall be yours and theirs. For when a man hath enow, let him part with his neighbors.
It is thy destiny, I trow, for to be clad all in briars, and ride the horse with 4 ears.
Nay, sir, not afore you, for I love ill to waiter. A ride in the saddle, but ye shall ride in a halter.
In good faith, knave, thou shalt bear me a stripe.
And thou shalt have another, and I can hit thee aright.
Why smitest thou not? Come off.
Nay, I trow ye do but scoff, but I would not for an 100-pound fight with thee.
Why so? Tell me.
For I never fought with man but he died, and so should you, and you did my strokes abide.
Marry, I had liever thou wert tied. Thou art as manly as ill-chieving. Thou art a good Bold fellow to go a-thieving.
Well, let us go to unthrift while hence, and let some other keep residence. For I dare lay thereon 40 pence. We shall have a sermon or night.
I trow then he will come hither that laid first in Principio together.
Go we, for we too will go hither. Thereas we will make
merry by this light.
by this light.
Ah, sir, I have been long away. I said I would see you by the light day.
There hath be a fair array where we two have be. There was laying of the law, and all was not worth a new straw, so God help me.
Sir, I saw the wench that did your neck claw, that bare in her hand a gay gigaw. Methought it was like a paw of a whitting. She held me with a tale of tit merry tally, till my thrift was gone as quit as a dally. God wot, it is a nice thing.
Peace, man, ye shall hear a sermon in fashion of the eagle that riseth full high. If he do hear thy exclamation, he will make thee to fly.
Not in a string, I trow. Peace, for he is come now.
O men unkind, wretched and mortal, hearken to this parable that I shall tell.
The hearing thereof give you I shall.
And I do by your counsel, if you say well.
Now I begin. Give audience. 2 men ascended once to a temple to pray, their conversation having great difference. It was the Pharisee and the publican, I say. 2 examples by them perceive we may. The great pride of the Pharisee, other men's faults he dispraised I, and his own counsel hid under false hue. In the publican's prayers there was then a great excellence of meekness. He despised himself, a wretched man, thinking each creature exceeded him in goodness. His faults he did confess, with great sorrow for his transgression, and in the Pharisee's prayer did express a full pride and adulation. Prayed not, but praised himself there, standing upright with a pert face. The mass beginneth with the Confiator, and endeth with Deo gratias. Even the reverse he did in this case. There the mass ended. He began proudly, making no confession of his trespass, but said, Deo gratias ago tibi. In that he thanked God he was not to blame, but in that he thanked him not with very meekness. 3 species of sin he rehearsed by name, in which all sins be comprehended express. Why raveners is understand covetize, in unrightful to stay pride of him then, in avatry, all lechery that men can rehearse. And thus he excused himself and slandered the publican. I pay my tithes, he said also. So he did, but not at the best. In that came he was like to, for he tithed all way of the worst. Twice in the week, he said, he did fast. From meat and drink he did, but not from deadly sin. And that is the fast that pleaseth God best. But thereat hypocrites will not begin. Against God he sinned grievously, in that he justified himself so, and his even Christian slandering maliciously, to testimonium parebis de tepisco, et testimonium tuum non et verum. I say so, wherefore God did him divide from the 9 parts of the angels to the 10th. So there Lucifer is fallen for his pride. The gospel said, who doth high him shall be ho. All they that praiseth themselves do sin, be you sure. And so, you cursed men, do your cure, for by God's judgment, if ye forsake not your sin, be you sure you go to hell. Wherefore, repent.
I cry God mercy for mine offense. My wicked life I do defy.
Also I am sorry of my negligence. Your doctrine I will follow full meekly.
This sample God saith thus too, that we should consider it wisely. Who deemeth himself good is far therefore, and he that thinks himself sinfulest is blessed hardly. Think now that your purpose was set cursedly in sin, thus to lead lives vain under colour of virtue, deeming yourself good, you and all they that it doth sustain. Be worlds worse than the Pharisee, men's laws are wooed. Remember this for the reverence of him that died on rood, and to the laws of the church abide every man, and ye shall be partners of Christ's precious blood, and blessed of God, as was the publican. Thus, if ye will be steadfast and true, Jesus will then with his grace you renew. To that Lord's bliss ye shall come, la qui vivit per infinita sectorum secula. Amen.
Amen. And thus endeth the interlude of St. John the Evangelist, imprinted at London in Foster Lane by John Whaley. So I didn't say at the beginning, from around 1520, and now that we've rattled through it at some pace, I've never run it at pace to just sort of feel how it sort of comes at you. We've always sort of stopped and started at little bits and pieces to just go, well, that's odd. But now it's sort of this sequential oddness. It's fascinating that you just get these bits. It's just like going, who's that? Where? What's going? Who's? Why? It's what's going on? And you just get the impression. Is it that it's just a longer play that's been cut down? Is it just several plays that have just been sort of weirdly mashed together? But they do sort of all reference John. But where is John? Because we seem to be... Because I was thinking earlier, they're referencing that island far away that's full of sin. Oh, that must be England. But no, they're in England. But how's John in England? What? Who? Where's this set? It's and who's Sir William of Trentham? Is he one of the other characters? Is that one of the other names? I don't know why I'm drawn to this play so much, because it's just such a mess. But it's a fascinating one. Alan, then Lois.
Well, I think the reason you may be drawn to it, it's got the feel of an early Doctor Who script.
In what?
It's all over the place in terms of time and location.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It doesn't seem to have a focus. I mean, the middle chunk seems to be very much an English one and almost a London-centric of, let's have a go at all these country bumpkins from various parts of the country. And then you get the sort of the scriptural stuff, which is, well, I suppose most of it's probably fairly kosher, but it's also, in terms of the speech patterns, it feels messy. It doesn't have the rhythm that the piece we did slightly earlier.
Yes, in a totally separate session that we won't reference here. Well, you can, but you have to reference everything in full.
Right. Well, but the thing is that at this period, when you're coming out of the sort of the mystery play, one where you do get this very strict sort of dum-de-dum-de-dum speech pattern, and this one's all over the place. I found it very difficult to work out where the stresses went.
Well, of course, we're not coming out of the medieval mystery tradition, because it's still alive and well and living everywhere. It's just a parallel tradition doing different things in different contexts. It is odd that we do have very different sort of plot lines. I mean, it's like we almost had a standard morality play. It's like, let's, where they're talking about going off to places of ill, and meeting ladies and drinking and doing bad and playing dice and all of those things. And then but then there's this whole, shall we go and watch the preacher? He's the best ticket in town stuff. It's like he's some sort of weird pop concert that you go to. But I suppose I don't think, are we quite at the point of the grandstanding preaching yet? I know that's something that happens later on, and that some people are very keen on this, and Edward later on will be very keen on that kind of preaching, and will make provision for such things. But I don't know at this time whether that's a thing. So I'm quite curious about that within the context of the play. Anyway, I'll go to Lois, who's currently muted, and yeah, we'll continue rather than me talking, because I keep doing that.
Yeah, I think Sir William of Trenton might just be a joke name, actually. I mean, it doesn't sound particularly funny to me, but it might have had funny connotations. I think it's just a way of referring to, is it John the Evangelist who's just come? I forget who appears at that point. But anyway, yeah, it's a funny construction. I mean, there are a couple of kind of back chat scenes of people vaguely insulting each other. And at the end, they say, I guess there's going to be a sermon tonight. And in fact, I guess the first, there's a reference in Idleness says it'll be the man who laid first in Principio together, which refers, I think, to the opening of St. John's Gospel, doesn't it? In the beginning, God created, no, not God created, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and so on. So, and then the Eugenio says, you shall hear a sermon of fashion of the eagle that riseth full high, which is the symbol of St. John. So they're talking clearly at a period when St. John, who should be long dead, is the author of the gospel attributed to him and also symbolized as an eagle. So it is all over the place in terms of time, in other words. And I don't really know what to make of it. It almost reads to me like something where group of people decided they should do a play, and each of them decided to write one scene and then see what happened, because that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, because I say it's like they go off and something's going to happen and then it doesn't. So it's like these plot lines are sort of left hanging, and it's like, oh, that's starting to sound interesting. There are bits where I'm sort of going, oh, I'm really going with this section, and you sort of get into it, and then I have got it written in my notes, bants at one point, and this sort of this back and forth. Evil Counsel, starting to do some interesting. He's just come from Rochester, apparently, and den of iniquity, and so. There's all these interesting sort of diversions. As I say, I'm fascinated just how it flows and sort of doesn't flow. But again, I sort of was quite happy to be here. I don't quite know why. Other thoughts from the room? Kyle.
I didn't recognize Eugenio and Actio. I was wondering where those might come from. Does anyone?
Lynn and then Aliki. Muted at present, Lynn. I'll go to Aliki and come back to you, Lynn.
So Eugene is from the Greek Evgenis. It means well-born. So I would say it's a nobleman.
Lynn?
Yeah, basically, it means good type, good guy. So it could mean someone who's well-born, or it could just mean good in a more sort of a qualitative or a moral sense. So it's just like a guy. So.
Yeah, and so it's like there's something interesting sort of going on between them, and they're having an interesting debate. And whereas Idleness and Evil Counsel just feel like we're off to do this morality play over here, they're doing a very different job of work for a play. They're doing much more like your standard morality play. Let's go on and ruin somebody's life. Let's go and steal wives and things. Shall we go off and do that? That's in the play next door, folks. Whereas there's something more debatey going on with initially Irisdision and Eugenio, and then to a degree with Actio as well, and it feels like there's a slightly different flow to that, but I could be imagining that. Aliki, then Lois.
There's a kind of almost like learning your catechism bit with this straight is the way and narrow business. The questions that aren't really questions, they're just there to elicit the good answer.
Yes. We have a the very good example of that is an earlier play, Lucidus and Dubious, where there are explicitly non-questions asked so that you can have the elicited answer along the lines of, why was the cross not made of stone? To which the answer is, because it needed to be wood to be a tree to do the thing and the staff, etc. But it's like, that's not a question anyone would come up with. You are working backwards, folks. But yeah, there is a lot of that, and actually that initial appearance is really quite difficult to follow. Whereas the rest of the play is quite straightforward. That initial appearance of Eugenio and Irisdision is just, it is quite. What we say? What we actually? I'm not sure where we are here. Lois.
Yeah, I really wondered where it does fall in the pre-Reformation period, because the emphasis on preaching as opposed to sort of ritual and the sacraments and so on is really Protestant. So that idea that if you imagine that maybe none of these people have really heard a proper sermon before because they've been lost in the darkness of Catholicism, and then suddenly along comes John the Evangelist and instant conversion. I don't know. It'd be one way of looking at it.
Yeah, I'm just checking my dating range on this, because the 1520 is its earliest, and I have to say, the more we talk about it, it does feel later, doesn't it? As the more we talk about it, so it has a range, actually potentially quite a long range. 1557 is its latest potential range on that. It's printed sometime in the 1550s, so it exists prior to that, but again, that we don't know precisely when. But I'm just checking Wiggins to see if it's made it into the canon before 1533, which he has not done so. So at least one person who thinks it's pre the 1530s. There isn't a lot on this one. There's a lot more on some of the other plays that we do. There isn't a lot on this one. I say I'm really drawn to this because I have a sort of performance, a way of performing this in mind, which is almost just a slice of life that these people are just wandering past. And that actually getting involved in a plot is missing the point of what we've got here. I mean, we could alternatively construct additional scenes around this and use this as a scaffold and try and unpick what's going on here. I think that's relatively straightforward for Irisdision and Evil Counsel. Whether we could connect them with the other characters we've met on stage, I don't know whether we can, but they definitely have a potential life there. But yeah, and just the idea that almost you just have John upstage all the way through the play, just constantly preaching, and you just turn his volume down. They sort of past him. So what I'm thinking is more an installation than performance, standard theatre performance. But I just find this I almost just want to have on a loop and see where you get on it. Other thoughts from the room before I close this particular second look? Kyle.
I just vaguely remember reading some John Bale stuff that sounded kind of like this, and I was wondering if anybody might have read more of that.
Well, we have done all of John Bale. It's structurally utterly different from John Bale in various ways. I mean, his three biblical plays are very straightforward in what they're doing, and actually he doesn't preach in the same way as this. I mean, he does do exposition on things, and he does have people doing some preaching. John Baptist preaching. There's some preaching in that, but it's largely within context. Even his prologues and his epilogues aren't as preachy as you think they are. You suspect they're going to be, but they're not quite as bad as that. And Three Laws is such a weird and strange thing anyway. So I'm not so sure. I mean, he writes in a very different verse style for starters. He's a very solid tramlines verse writer, whereas this is much more all over the shop. Except for St. John, who is quite looks. No, he's not as regular as you'd think. Actually, he's not as regular. He looks like it initially, but it does drift a bit. But I mean, it's very much in that ballpark because it does feel very Protestant, doesn't it? Fellow traveller, if not the same, quite the same universe. Because the evangelical phase of it all is there's a lot of competing doctrines dancing around each other at that point. But yeah, I'm feeling later now. I'm feeling I'm not going to where do we put it? Do we put it in its earliest potential date of 1520, or is it a later beast? So difficult to know where to put it. Doesn't ultimately matter, but I've got to put it somewhere on the website. And if I'm putting it in a playlist, I need to know where it goes. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, I think we've given this a run around the block reasonably well. Again, it's a cast maximum of 6. You can do fewer than that. It's not very long. So a return visit to this on either the podcast as a full cast audio or even something semi-staged is very plausible sometime further down the line. And yes, that may indeed happen. All that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. I cannot sing.